So today I'm going to show you how to use Google Fonts on your website, why you would use them, and how to install them. First, let's talk about why you'd want to use Google Fonts. So unless you have the licenses to embed a font on your website, you're limited to the fonts that are already typically on a user's computer or device. As you can see on this W3 Schools site, the list of fonts available by default on most devices is pretty short and may not be the same for all devices, leaving your design up for the possibility of big font variances. Google Fonts is a free and hosted resource for fonts that can be used on any website without you having to worry about whether or not a user has that font or not. Along with being embeddable on a website, Google Fonts are also available to download for desktop use, so they're a great cost-effective choice for branding. To get to Google Fonts, go to fonts.google.com, as you can see up here. So you can search by different categories here. You can sort everything out by just serif, sans serif, display fonts that have a little more flair. I'm just going to select a few just to show you how to include them on your website. So I'm going to use Belfair. What I'm going to do is click this plus sign, and that pops up something down here, and it shows me how to embed just one font. So I'm going to copy this link for a style sheet. I'm going to go into my file and paste that link above my style sheet. Alright, so we've put our style sheet link up here. Now I'm going to go into my CSS, and instead of this font family, I'm going to change it to, oh, I already copied that. I'm going to change it to what Google has on their specify in CSS section. Alright, so I'm going to save that and refresh, and we can now see that I have this Belfair font. It's kind of ugly in my body text. So the next thing I want to show you is if you want to use multiple fonts from Google. So you can customize. This Belfair font only has one version, but a lot of the sans serifs and not so stylish ones have many. So we'll add Open Sans. So you can see under Customize for Open Sans, there is light italic, regular italic, etc. So you can include more of these by clicking the checkbox next to each version. And then Google will let you know that the more you add in there, the longer it's going to take to load that style sheet. So every font variation here does have a file included with it that needs to be downloaded by the user. I would say try to keep it fairly light, keep it to what you actually need. Alright, so then we select everything we want and go back here and see that our link tag here is different. So we're going to copy and paste this into our document to replace just the Belfair link. So you could actually write these yourself if you felt like adding more later on. So what they do is just add the names of the fonts behind the family equals, separated by a pipe. And then if there are variations to that font, there's a colon after it, and then the weight and whether or not it's italic is added there as well. So you could, in the future, if you wanted to just update that real quick and add one of those, you could edit that in your style sheet without going to Google Fonts. It's probably a good idea to check anyway. Then here they've given us our new font family as well. So I'm going to go back to our page, and I'm going to change our headings. So you can see that we've changed our headings. So we've got the Belfair as our body text, and we've got Open Sans as our header. If we want to use some of these variations, say for example light 300, We could do font weight 300, and that will use the 300 weight font. We can test that out and try the 400. See that we've slightly changed. And we could try our 600. Oops. So Open Sans also has an italic version, so we will test that out by adding font style italic to our element. Google Fonts are also available for download to use on your desktop in things like Photoshop and Illustrator. To download your set of files, which will include everything selected here, click the download button at the top right. If you're having trouble implementing your Google font, double check that you have implemented your HTML and your CSS. Also double check for misspellings. The names for these font families do need to be exactly as they are in Google Fonts. So if something's not working, I would definitely double check this specify in CSS area. Make sure that you're copy and pasting that, because you could end up with typos that you don't even notice. I do also want to mention that different operating systems and browsers actually render fonts differently. So you do want to check that everything looks the way that you're hoping that it will. For example, I've opened my tiny little website in Chrome, and you can see that there's like a weird issue here with the font, the Belfair font. If you remember when we were looking through here and selecting fonts, Belfair actually only has regular. So in my file, I have set some of this text to be strong. So it's actually applying a fake weight to this font, which Chrome is not liking. Safari and Firefox seem to be okay with applying that. But that's something to look out for. If your font doesn't have different weights or italic, you don't want to apply those things to the font. It's just going to mess with your typography and probably cause issues in some browser that somebody's looking in. Google Fonts also has a getting started guide. You can find this at the bottom of the embed window. So click on that and you can find all the information you need to get started too. Alright, so that is everything you need to do to include a Google font on your website. If you have any questions, contact your instructor.